David, Cokie Roberts' death partly got me thinking about this loss of mutual respect, this loss of a sort of a willingness to see each other as human beings between the press and politicians. It seems to me the venom is getting worse every year that the Trump era goes on.
Yeah, it is, Brian. And with Trump and individual remarks, you never know whether it's the impulsive act of arrested and adolescent psychopath acting on impulse or a calculated political strategy. But there is a long-range strategy at play here, and it's deride and conquer. Look, Trump and
Wait, that's interesting. Hold on. Deride and conquer?
Deride, mock, make us a laughing stock. Remember this week he said we're a laughing stock internationally? That's a little bit of projection. I don't think we're a laughing stock internationally. I think our president is the person who's laughed at internationally. But then he called us a joke. The idea is to do to the press what Trump and his team have managed to do pretty much to the Democratic House of Representatives in mocking them. Remember back in May when William Barr was with Nancy Pelosi at an event, and he said, "Have you brought the handcuffs, Madam Speaker?" Mocking, and then laughed, mocking their ability to back up their threats of citing him for contempt or their subpoenas. They now mock the House. You saw it this week. Corey Lewandowski spit in the face of the House, and there's nothing going to happen to him. In fact, if you read the right-wing media, he was a hero. They want to do that to the press. If they can do that to the press, if they can mock us to the point where people don't take us seriously and we don't back up our effort, if we don't show integrity, if we don't have some teeth in our reporting, they will do it. And Brian, we are the last best hope between Trump and an imperial presidency. You know, in '73, Arthur Schlesinger wrote a book called The Imperial Presidency. It was based on FDR, LBJ, but it was written during the Nixon administration. And it said they have expanded the powers of the presidency so far beyond what the framers of the Constitution intended that they're trying to make him into a king. Last thing the framers wanted was King George, as you remember. That's what's going on here. When Trump said this week that he said nothing inappropriate in that conversation with Ukraine, he said highest level, never inappropriate or always appropriate. That's him. And you know, we've got William Barr as Attorney General in his ear, a guy who has spent his life writing about the powers of the presidency should be expanded. That's where all of this is going. That's the long game. Short game, he needs an enemy during this campaign to get reelected, and he doesn't have Hillary Clinton. And his talk about the radical Democrats, socialists on the left isn't going so well. He gets automatic praise from his base when he pounds the press and fights with us. Brian, as you've said on this show, it is only going to get worse. It's going to get awful in coming months.
Years after Joe Biden ousted a corrupt Ukrainian prosecutor, he was still touting his accomplishment.
I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
As Vice President Biden threatened to withhold $1 billion in U.S. aid if the country refused to oust its top prosecutor. By 2015, the Obama administration, the International Monetary Fund, and other Western leaders had grown frustrated that the prosecutor, Viktor Shokin, failed to crack down on corruption in Ukraine. After Biden's ultimatum, Shokin was removed in 2016. But this is what has President Trump and allies like Rudy Giuliani all riled up. At the same time that Biden was cracking down on that Ukrainian prosecutor,
Be back in Ukraine.
His son, Hunter Biden, was serving on the board of Burisma Holdings, a Ukrainian natural gas company. Trump's allies claim Biden wanted that Ukrainian prosecutor out because his son's company, Burisma, was under investigation.
I found out this incredible story about Joe Biden, that he bribed the president of the Ukraine in order to fire a prosecutor who was investigating his son. That is an astounding scandal.
For a time, Burisma was under investigation, but at least one former official in the prosecutor's office said the investigation into Burisma had already been shelved by the time Biden threatened to withhold U.S. aid. And there's no evidence that either Joe Biden or Hunter Biden did anything wrong, even if the optics aren't that great.
There's not been one scintilla of evidence that my son ever interfered, that I ever asked me anything, that I ever got involved in anything other than doing the job I was supposed to do, or that he ever contacted anybody in the American government to do anything. And so I'm proud of him. I just think it's the way these guys play.
Hunter Biden told the New York Times earlier this year he never discussed company business or his decision to join the board with his father. He added, "I have had no role whatsoever in relation to any investigation of Burisma or any of its officers." Hunter Biden also said he left Burisma's board earlier this year, deciding to part ways with the company in a political season where my qualifications and work are being attacked by Rudy Giuliani and his minions for transparent political purposes. Of course, that hasn't stopped Giuliani from digging for dirt.
It's a case that is crying out to be investigated.
Earlier this year, Giuliani planned, then canceled a trip to Ukraine to press officials about Biden-related investigations. He later met with a representative for Ukraine's president to discuss Biden. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Prosecutor General Yuri Lutsenko said in an interview in May that he had no proof Joe Biden or his son did anything wrong. An entity connected to Hunter Biden made millions from its work with Burisma. But from my point of view, a board member can be paid whatever a company decides. They didn't violate any Ukrainian laws, Lutsenko said. Whether Burisma's board members violated U.S. law is not for me to judge. Sarah Murray, CNN, Washington.